Lawyers were in court today for the Tufts University student who was grabbed off the street by immigration officers last week. Turkish grad student Rümeysa Öztürk's attorneys today asked a judge to order her returned to Massachusetts from Louisiana, where she is now being detained. Ms. Öztürk's university is also throwing its support behind her. In fact, Tufts president writes in a declaration to the court that the university has no reason to believe that Ms. Öztürk did anything to warrant her detention and that her arrest is sowing fear in the campus community. In that declaration, the president says, quote, based on everything we know and have shared here, the university seeks relief so that Ms. Öztürk is released without delay so that she can return to complete her studies and finish her degree at Tufts University. And one of the things that was particularly unsettling about Rümeysa Öztürk's arrest is that she was never actually told that her student visa had been revoked. The very first time that she had learned about it was when masked immigration officers surrounded her on the street. Well, it turns out that revoking student visas without telling anybody appears to be the rule, not the exception for this Trump administration. After a student at Minnesota State Mankato was detained by ICE, staff at the university decided to, check the status of the rest of their international students in an online federal database. And they discovered, to their surprise, that 5 more students had had their visas revoked. This is happening all over the country. It's not just in that state, Minnesota. It's in Colorado, it's in Arizona, Ohio, North Carolina. Universities are actually discovering that their international students have had their visas revoked, and none of them have been notified. Meanwhile, in a federal court in Washington today, the Trump administration was yet again on the hot seat over its deportation of hundreds of Venezuelans to a prison in El Salvador. Last month, you may recall, Donald Trump claimed that a wartime law from the 1700s somehow gave him the power to deport and imprison them with no notice, no hearings, no due process. When a federal judge learned that planes carrying those men were in the air, he actually ordered them to turn around and bring the men back to the United States until the judge could determine whether the Trump administration was actually acting lawfully. You know what happened? Those planes, they landed in El Salvador. They did not turn around. And those men, one of whom the Trump administration now admits was deported in error, are now locked in a brutal prison there. Today's court hearing was for that judge to determine whether the Trump administration willfully violated his order to turn those planes around. And it did not appear to go well for the government. The judge said to the Trump administration lawyer, quote, there is a fair likelihood that the government acted in bad faith throughout that day. And if you really believed everything you did that day was legal and could survive a court challenge, I can't believe you ever would have operated in the way that you did. And the judge spent much of today's hearing trying to determine which Trump administration official, literally by name, which official by name knew about his order to turn the planes around, because the judge, makes sense, that judge wants those names so that he knows exactly who to hold in contempt if he determines that they did in fact defy his order to turn those planes around back to the United States. Joining me now is Lee Gallant, Deputy Director of the ACLU Immigrants' Rights Project. He was the lawyer on the other side in that courtroom today, arguing against the Trump administration. Mr. Gallant, it's great to see you again. Thank you so much for joining us. Help us understand what happened in today's hearing. What was the judge trying to get from the Trump administration, and why was it so important, and did he ultimately get it?
Yeah, so I think he was frustrated, and he's been frustrated now for several weeks about the government's actions. So there's 2 sort of parallel things going on in this case. One is, can the administration use this wartime authority during peacetime and remove people potentially for the rest of their lives to this brutal Salvadoran prison without any due process whatsoever? We say no. So far, the courts have said no. We'll see. The case is pending in the Supreme Court now. We'll see what the Supreme Court says. But at the same time, the judge is also trying to figure out, was his order violated? We had an emergency Saturday night hearing. The administration started moving people under this authority before they even published the law. he said, turn the planes around till we can figure things out, or if they land in El Salvador, bring the people back. The administration did not bring the people back, and in a highly publicized video, you saw those men being turned over to Salvadoran prison. So the judge is very, very concerned that the administration just sort of blatantly violated his order not to turn the planes around. And what he said is, if you thought my order was wrong, appeal it. You did appeal it, but don't just ignore a federal court's order. He's trying to get to the bottom of what happened, who did it, who ordered them not to turn the planes around, and was it done deliberately?
What is the argument that the government is presenting as to why they have not produced the name of these officials? Do you expect that the government will ultimately reveal the names of who gave that flight the green light to take off from U.S. soil, or if the order came out after the plane had taken off, not to turn back around and just ignore that order? I mean, do you expect the judge to haul Trump administration officials in to testify?
Yeah, I mean, you're asking the exact right question. I don't know how the administration is going to play it. So far, they've not only failed to turn over the information, but they've invoked something called the state secrets privilege, which is invoked so rarely and only in the most serious matters, matters with CIA kind of investigations and that kind of thing. So I don't know what they're going to do. I think the judge is not going to let them off the hook. He is going to want to know who's responsible, what happened, and he today said there may need to be hearings. And he also said, maybe you want to try and avoid contempt by bringing these individuals back. So we'll see how he plays it. But the one thing he's been clear about is this is not about him. This is about a federal court's authority. And I think he is very, very concerned that the administration is just thumbing their nose at the judiciary and saying, well, there was this order, but so be it.
Yeah, and of course, as others have noted, if that is the case, this would put us on the precipice of a constitutional crisis where the administration is ignoring a court order. But talk to me about what the administration has now done. They have admitted that one person on those flights was deported and imprisoned in El Salvador in error. They are now saying he has no recourse to contest his situation or return to the United States. That has to be mind-blowing for anyone who is watching this to think, how is that even possible? Somebody who is wrongfully sent out of this country has no legal recourse.
Yeah, absolutely. And I wish we could say it was only one person, but we know one person definitively now. But we have started to put in evidence showing that many people were likely mistakenly sent, that they were not gang members. They're using things like tattoos as what they think is definitive proof, but they're not giving anybody a hearing to contest that. Experts have said tattoos are not a reliable indicator to this gang. I think when it's all said and done, we are going to find out that many, many, many people are sitting in a Salvadoran prison, potentially for the rest of their lives, and were never gang members. And the fact that they didn't get any due process means we may just have sent people there who we're never going to hear from again. And so I think this one person that we know now is definitively a mistake. I think that's just the tip of the iceberg. I don't know what the administration is going to do, but this judge is going to get to the bottom of it one way or the other. And we not only have to deal with the people who've already been sent, but we really need to stop it going forward, because the administration is saying we don't need to give them process, and we will start removing person after person after person. And I don't think El Salvador will stop taking them.
Yeah, so much is at stake, and let's certainly hope the judge does get to the bottom of it for the sake of those wrongfully sent there, as well as for our democracy. Lee Gallert, it's great to see you as always, Deputy Director of the ACLU Immigrants' Rights Project. Thanks. Up next, what Kamala Harris said tonight about what's happened since Donald Trump became president.